week, Marilyn Horse, and after many complaints, usually from her, we're going to lighten up with some of our items.
Oh,
So if you want to know how to cook potatoes, we'll tell you how to cook potatoes. If you want to hear something horrible on the web, we'll tell you about that also. I'll tell you what, though, we're going to kick off today, because we did mention it last week about Pornhub, in at the deep end. There are two charities, actually. One that we sort of patted on the head last week, Internet Watch Foundation. And there's another one called Lucy Faithfull Foundation. And these two have got together and they've managed to get pop-ups on your computer. If you're a naughty person going into the computer to watch porn, especially paedophilic, good name, porn, then a pop-up comes up. Not on in every occasion. They've not got the technology yet, but it says, "This is illegal. Do you realise?" That's good. And the following pop-up comes up saying, "Do you think you need help? Because we're here to help you." Now, they don't get many replies, but they do get replies. Is this a good idea?
well, it is a good idea, but it's not very dissimilar to you go before the pornographic stuff. When people were looking at child abuse images and looking at different websites and stuff, there used to be, when you used to have to pay for it, yeah, you'd like put your card in and it would say, this is not really legal viewing. Do you still want to continue paying? You'd click the card again. You'd say yes. Do you realize what you're watching is illegal? Yes. Do you want to continue? Yes. So that has been around for a very long time. But now, of course, people aren't really having to pay. They just download it, don't they? But you used to get, because I can remember when it was one of the big cases where about 7,000 people were caught over here in the UK. I remember going on the radio with one guy who said, "Oh, I just tripped upon it by mistake." I said, "Hang on a minute. You would have had 4 opportunities where it told you this was illegal, not for human consumption, and you would have gone, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay." That is not an error. That is what you did. And the line went dead. Yes,
Yes, it's called the comedy of errors. Yeah, we've come
but
across
also
that.
there was another excellent, you say about the charities, which I didn't know that about the Lucy Faithfull Foundation, because they also, off the back of that, has come Stop It Now, where people can, the only charities, Stop It Now, are linked to Lucy Faithfull, where anyone who wants to abuse a child or feels they want to stop, it's the only charity that can help them. But in America, in Boston, you've got Culture Reframed, and they really are amazing on the research they've done over 30 years on pornography and what it does. What irritates me is that people talk about child pornography. It's not child pornography, it's child abuse. If you're watching children being abused and you're going through on the Pornhub, it is child abuse, not child pornography. You are watching this stuff in real time where people have filmed it, and what you're watching has actually happened to a child.
Moving on from the sublime to the ridiculous. Well, some people might think it's not ridiculous, but there again, it's about dogs and cats. It started in Colorado, where else? And they've uncovered some very nasty statistics. And they've come out with the local councils have come out with a law. Well, local councils, Colorado's big. It's a whole lot of it. It's about if you've got a dog or a rabbit or a goldfish, you've now got to register them because, yes, no, it gets worse, because of net zero, because of climate change. Yes,
a goldfish.
A goldfish, and if you've not had them neutered, don't ask me how you neuter a goldfish or even tell what sex it is. Sounds like human beings, isn't it, these days? Anyway, you get fined twice as much if it's not been neutered. Now, of course, we follow America in the United Kingdom and most of Europe, sometimes stupidly. Bournemouth councillor. Now, a lot of daft goes on in Bournemouth, and this is daft. Mark Howell will call you out. Net zero fanatic. 2050, we've got to be net zero. Let's have some facts then. and I'll give you them. The problem is, he wants to ban medium and large sized dogs because their carbon footprint is equivalent to an SUV. That's a big, ugly 4-wheel drive Chelsea tractor type vehicle. Really? Well, apparently, I suppose it's moved on from the cows who are exiting methane most of their lives, and therefore they've got to be stopped, and we've got to rather eat insects in our burgers. Anyway, the facts are as follows. There are 21 million dogs and cats in the United Kingdom. There you go, that's a third of the population. And the most sensible part, I would haste to add. There are 7.6 billion of tins dog food and cat food sold every year. Wow, that's enormous. Big industry. There are 3.6 billion plastic bags for picking up the poo. And the plastic bags are not a good thing, are they? They're even worse if you've got poo inside them. And, or poop. They say poop in America. Well, it's poop.
They do.
Yeah, it's poo here. And we're lazy. 1.2 million tons of poo is picked up every year. That's a lot of poo. And can we find something to do with the poo first of all?
Me, I am a massive animal fan. Yeah. I'd rather get rid of the SUVs. Those ugly, great things that take in 1.5 spaces in Tesco car park, where the yummy mummies drive around thinking they own the road. Let's get rid of them. And number 2, do you know what I would really like to get rid of? Really, seriously, having had 7 grandchildren, it takes, I can't remember, is it 50, 60 years for a nappy to break down? And they don't anymore. I don't know how many babies in this country have had their nappies changed this morning with poo that doesn't go down the toilet pan, because no parent puts a liner in it like when we had. Do you remember when we had the terry nappies? If you really want to be eco-friendly, go back to having terry toweling nappies. Yeah. And you used to have a liner in it, and the liner went down the toilet. How I feel, where do all these nappies go? Now, in Bermuda, where I'm going on Friday, they're very hot on the environment, and they have a very interesting, and actually I might take a photograph of it, breakdown of like how long a cigarette end takes to actually break down. Nappies, like Pampers, all that lot, are extraordinarily long time before they begin to break down. And don't forget, they've also got the poo in it. So I'm sorry, give me the dogs anytime. And they give you genuine love and affection. It is really worth considering how long things actually take to break down. And as I say, you can do the bio-friendly poo bags that you know that actually do disintegrate, sort of thing. But as I say, I often do think about the nappies and the fact that the stuff never goes down the toilet. It's just disgusting. And I would have more to say about that actually than the dogs.
Well, yes. Well, look, yeah, you've mentioned Bermuda, and we're going to do a show at least from there, like we did last time. She's not going to get away with it. But one thing she's looking forward to, there's a caveat there, not really, is she's been promised a boat journey on a catamaran. And I've warned her about catamarans, but let's hope she maintains the white colour instead of the green colour. But she's going whale hunting.
Well, no, while watching, I'm not going to.
Oh, you're not going to stick a spear in them then?
Lampoon any, no.
All right. We've got some breaking news this week about whales. Not about whales. We've had enough of Mark Drakesford and co, haven't we? About the animals. And it's been found that actually, the theory now is that most of the whales were dinosaur-type animals.
Yeah.
And they came off the land and went into the sea. And they gradually got shorter and shorter feet until they developed gills. It's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
But there's another branch of the marine industry that came out of the sea and formed, as we all know, dolphins and whales, etc., are mammals and they breathe. And so it's a bit easier for them to come out of sea. There's another branch of the whale industry that comes out of the sea and has a populated land, so they've gone both ways. But why I'm mentioning this is that whales are getting confused.
Yeah.
Because they make extraordinary sounds, not like other fishes. It sounds like a UFO. It's weird. But they're getting confused by boats of a certain size. So they're identifying the vibrations given off by boats. And they're trying to make love to the boats. We won't. This is a family show. We won't take things much further than this. But it doesn't. They found out it doesn't work, so they're getting frustrated. So when you go out there and do your whale thing, yes, try making a peculiar sound.
I do not want to. I don't want to be sort of duffed over by some bull, whatever they're called, male whale. But I mean, it's the mating season for them, so they all going off. I don't know where they go to, but they are leaving the east coast of America, and they're humping somewhere else.
They're going up north.
I don't know this. I'm looking forward to it because it's such a good opportunity, but I'm not very good on the water. And now all my uncles were in the Navy and my husband was in the Navy. I'm not very good, so I don't know what I'm in for, but I think I should be taking a lot of plastic bags with me.
Yes, you're allowed to do that. Yeah, don't throw them overboard. Because believe you me, as boaters, we go out to sea a lot and we see all sorts of plastic overboard. It's awful.
They are very eco-friendly in Bermuda, and they only have paper bags.
Well, that's all right, unless they get wet and things fall out the bottom. Right, we've covered whale songs, but we're going to move on to politics and William. And he was pictured in, I nearly said a mosque, quite the reverse, in a synagogue this week. And he had one of the little hats on, the skull caps. And Marilyn and I have been discussing this all week to the merriment of us both. And I suppose, I don't know, bless him, he doesn't have there's not much hair there, so I suppose it would cover up at least one part of the bald patch. But is he going like his father? I think so. I mean, he's over the top with the green thing. Remember his father some years ago going to India and wearing all sorts of fezzes or whatever. No, that's North Africa, isn't it? And then and he still does this at times. I mean, what's this all about? Have we got no culture? Have we got to take on board other people's culture? Have we got to take our shoes off when we go in a mosque? Oh,
well, I when I've been to Dubai, I do that. Like I will, you put a thing over your head, and and it's a bit like that when you go to very Catholic churches, isn't it? They like you to cover your hair and all of that, and I do that, and I don't object to taking my, my shoes off when I go and teach in a Muslim school. For the moment you get there, you have to take your shoes off. Because you're walking in parts of the school are hallowed ground sort of thing. So you have to pad around the school with just your socks on. Or if you forget to wear socks, you've got to walk around barefoot all the time. It's very strange. But I don't object to that. But I do think that I found that particularly weird. I thought, why is he wearing a skull cap? I mean, I don't get it. I mean, when people come here, when you have dignitaries coming here from India, they continue to wear what they always wear sort of stuff. They don't suddenly think, I must put a suit and tie on and I must wear a very pretty frock because I'm now in England. They still wear what they wear. So why does he? I'm sorry, but I did actually burst out laughing because I thought, you look absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I mean, we're very tolerant. Some people say too tolerant, and we wouldn't object. Perhaps the Scots ought to object when we go across the border. Where's your kilt?
Well, I look forward to seeing you in a kilt.
Oh, you wouldn't. It's drafty. Anyway, we should move on. Well, I don't know. We'll stay royal. We'll go to Prince Harry. I mean, he's got fines to pay going to the justices. He's got some money out of them. Perhaps it'll finish up 50-50 in the end. What's he doing it for? Well, we know what he's doing it for. Vengeance against the press. Not the best of reasons, but one thinks of his entry into America when he signed the form saying, I've not touched drugs, my lord,
Yeah.
etc. And now it appears, thanks to his self-confession in the book, money's more important than truth. Or is it true? Has he exaggerated? Well, a local lawyer stroke judge between them have come up with a theory. Oh, we think he's exaggerated it in the book. Really? That
I
all
don't.
his mates, all
I
the people he's worked with in the army, they know what he's done.
Exactly, and his ex-chums from Eton, everybody knew, and he was like nightclubs and all of that. Yes, he's self-confessed more than once, and I mean it's been in the press for a long time. But as you say, he used the magic word, royal family, prince. What gets me is this couple so didn't want to get involved with the royal family. They just wanted to have their own little private life where they've done anything but.
In a word,
They're always
yes.
in court fighting somebody or other, or making snide remarks about the royal family. I just find he is completely lost and twisted, and for all the money he's got, somebody needs to iron him out. But of course, the person he's married to is such a narcissist and control freak, I think.
Yeah, we've got the other thing that people are talking about. Well, I am as well. Obviously, one has to look at the death of Diana and has an effect on
Oh, of course it has.
children's lives.
Yeah,
But can I put another point of view? I bet it's had nowhere near an effect than pot smoking, hard drug smoking, and whatever else. I bet that's
absolutely.
had far bigger effect to where he is now.
Absolutely right, without a doubt. I mean, it is proved that cannabis, it came out in the press only last week. Finally, something we always knew, that it does have the chemicals and does depend on the sort of cannabis, what else is in it, that he would have been using. And I don't believe it was only once or twice at a party. I really don't believe it. It completely mucks up your mind. And it does cause psychosis. It does cause psychiatric problems, and you can't get away from it. It does. We weren't meant to put chemicals into our body of this nature. Absolutely weren't. And I doubt very much it's just stopped at, I can't believe it just stopped at cannabis. I'm sure, you know, the white powder has been involved as well. I can't believe it won't, because he's had all these high-falutin friends. And I mean,
High-falutin and high-polluting, yes.
yeah, I mean, cocaine is rife amongst the upper echelon of London. I mean, the stockbroker belt and all the people that are in high-powered jobs is very, very common. And I can't believe he hasn't done that either. And it messes your brains up. And anyway, I'm not being funny. What about the kids? Oh, yes, it was tragic. Yes, it was awful, and very, very public, and being walked behind a coffin, I don't think helps anyone. But what about the children who've lost their fathers and parents in Ukraine? What about the people? I mean, what about the people in Gaza? You know, who have lost their parents, the little ones that are now orphaned. I mean, for goodness sake! And what about the people here whose parents have left to work this morning and they're not coming home because they've just been killed on a motorway? You know, I'm not wishing to compare, but I am comparing. Where is your resilience?
Yep, know what you mean. You've mentioned motorways. Let me go and continue the abuse theme on motorways. Who is governing us? Now, this will come up in a couple of things that we've got to say this morning. Smart motorways. Now, from day one, everybody said, this is a recipe for disaster. It has been proved on the M6, particularly. And last week, there was a 6-car pileup on the M6. Fortunately, nobody lost their life, but lives have been lost. There have been 52 incidents in a very short period of time, 23 in the 2 high seasons, July and August alone. Now, it's all down to computers.
Yes.
Now, computers make errors. They've got a very good computer system called DINAC. And the jolly old people that operate this computer system. In other words, when you break down, you've got to either find your way to a safe area, not enough of them, which is an addition to the hard shoulder, which has now become an extra lane on the motorway, or be under a signal saying, get out of this lane, somebody's broken down. Well, DINAC fails. It fails so often that the people operating the system remotely, of course, the experts, have rechristened DINAC, they say it's die now, because that is what is happening. And blow me behind people's backs, they have identified, and this is absolute hypocrisy, government, they have identified 6 other motorways that they intend doing a cheap job. That's the only reason we've got this. We don't want to build another lane because it's too costly. So, and that is going ahead. They may have stopped it on the M6 for how long, we don't know, but they're going ahead with other motorways. It's unconscionable.
I wouldn't be surprised if the M1 is having this done, because from sort of Watford all the way up to beyond junction 14, 15, there is a constant like load of roadworks going on, and I wouldn't mind betting it's going on there. I was stuck on, well, I wasn't stuck, I had to keep going. It was about 18 months ago on the M25. I was approaching Watford and the fuel injectors in the car went. So I was like kangarooing, and I was on the hard shoulder, and which was also a lane that was being used. Oh my, I was honestly, I really didn't think I was going to make it off the motorway. I had nowhere to pull in, nowhere at all. I couldn't stop. There were no phones. And I was like, I had my hazard lights on. I was going about 10 miles an hour. People were like, beep, 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 flashing. It was clearly obvious that I was breaking down. And of course, they were hammering down what is the hard shoulder, i.e. smart motorway. And then they were like overtaking dangerously into the next lane. So as well as me being at risk, so were the other people on the next lane and the next lane and so forth. It was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And so I've experienced it.
Yeah.
It's awful. And
Well,
it's
the hypocrisy of these things is thinking of hypocrisy. Let's go on to Angela Rayner, talking
Rather
about
not.
hypocrites. Well, I mean, she's had a mixed past. Everybody feels sorry for her, really. And she's got herself a council house, even though she hated Mrs. T more than anything else. And she's taken advantage of this. And she's got no shame. Of course, I'm going to make some money and sell my council house. How many houses she got? Her present husband, inverted commas, is living close by in another house, allegedly. Things are not right. One thinks back to Miss Moneytree, Diane Abbott.
Oh.
I mean, she's been going on as an ultra left-wing socialist for donkey's years about private education. Lo and behold, children going to private school. And she's got an answer for that. Well, you do when you get very good at being political. There's so much that, with regret, there's so much hypocrisy everywhere. But when you are eschewing socialism, I'm sorry, that is basic. You don't have 4 or 5 houses, as many of them do.
I know.
You know, live the life, but don't talk the talk, perhaps.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Do as I say, not as I do. And it is dire hypocrisy. It really is dreadful. I mean, I despair at politics at the moment. It's just a continuing pantomime. It's just, if it wasn't so serious, it's laughable, really. You can make a sitcom out of it. I mean, but you say the hypocrisy is well, it's not beyond imagination, is it? Because we've always known that, you know, they probably have private health as well, which actually is no bad thing, where you have the NHS now using private health as well, which you mentioned last week. If we mentioned it, we talked about it last week. Why don't they use the private system? Now, Diane, going a little bit away from Angela Rayner, but still going on the private route thing. So my husband last week, well, 2 weeks ago, he was told he had to have a cataract removed, right? That would be done in about 3 months. Well, less than 2 weeks, we had an assessment meeting. In fact, the very next day, he had it done in a private eye clinic. Now, we live in Bedfordshire, and they are turning around 24 of these cataract operations every day to relieve the waiting list for the hospital in the NHS, and that leaves the hospital doing the more serious operations. So that is going to absolutely massively reduce the waiting lists. And again, the ultrasound department on Saturday was open, again, trying to remove the lists, and other private clinics. And I do think that that works. But so what are you going to do about education? How can you involve private education with the state schools? I mean, there's a lot they could learn from the private education, discipline being one of them.
Yes, got an interesting item again shortly on that. But let's stick with the children's services as being a serious note. In Dorset, would you believe 20% don't attend school in Dorset? Now, Dorset's not exactly an unposh area,
No.
and 1 in 5 don't attend. Now, who's that down to? It's a long way from the truancy officers in our day that made sure that they visited the house and saw parents if said a child was not attending school. But now we've gone to carrots as opposed to sticks, and we will do everything to see the rights, inverted commas, of the parents and the children if they don't. Oh, well, it's the pandemic. Oh, well, and this has actually happened. My child is transitioning at the moment.
Oh,
Doesn't feel comfortable going to school. Really? There's talk about fines for both the parents, and how they're going to do this. Don't ask me, the children. Is that going to work?
of course it's not going to work. You've got a financial crisis going on. Of course it's not going to work. I'd be interested to know how many out of that 1 in 5 are being home educated, because that has gone up 40%, home education. And I have to say, when I go around these schools that are about the size of an army, like 1,800 children in it, how do you, some of these schools are far too big. And so I can understand why people home tutor, but on the other hand, yes, I mean, all this mental health nonsense. I mean, get off this damn phones. Get off your phones, get out there, do a sport, get yourself busy, put something back into society rather than hiding up in your bedroom going, I got mental health issues. I mean, you can't keep on blaming COVID for everything. There was a school the other day that was saying, now hang on, I know what it was. It was, I think it was on Sky News yesterday. No, Laura Kunzberg, I think it was. Lovely, lovely guy whose child, Mia, her name was, had taken her own life. She was bullied in the school and cyberbullied. Lovely young girl. And then 2 years later, he lost his wife as well. And the school's excuse, I think it came from here, was that, oh, this is children, after COVID. I'm sorry, you cannot keep blaming COVID. I mean, some will have found it difficult. Some will have been holed up in abusive houses, and that will create problems, no doubt about it. But others, I don't know. I just think parents need to be a bit firmer, as you say, sticks, not carrots.
Well, it used to be the thing. I mean, you wouldn't dare not put your child in school.
Absolutely. But I also think if you're home educating, there should be on a register, you should be open to being checked, because how do we know that the children, because education is the child's right, how do you know that that child is being appropriately taught at home? So there should be some overview, and there isn't at the moment. There isn't a register of who is home educating.
Yeah, it is a factor, I'm sure, but the overwhelming majority of these people, the parents can't bother. Oh, yeah, go and you can watch the match instead of going to school.
Exactly.
And it just becomes a habit. Therefore, we've got to get to the parents. Be a parent, people. We keep saying this, be a parent.
It also has some of the people, working from home, they don't want to go back to work 5 days a week now. They want to say, well, I've worked from home sufficiently all this time. Why can't I just go into the office once and work from home the other 4 days.
Well, it's all right if you don't get paid for working when you're at home, fine. I mean, we're just too soft. The whole thing has got out of
Yeah,
hand.
but I think mentally anyway, it's good to go out to work. It's good to go out to school. It's, you know, we are not meant to be islands and separate rocks in society. We're supposed to commune with our fellow people.
Yes, no man is an island. Oh, I don't know where I got that from. Yeah, yes, I do. It was Tony Hancock about 30 years ago, or even 40. Uh, Optimal class sizes, while we're on the subject, there's been a very, very good report come out from the US. A summary will make us titter. But what is the ultimate class size? Now, they've come up with the number of 18 for the little ones. That's about right.
Mhm.
No more than that. Okay, that's their view. It will enable people to be grounded in the basics of English or whatever language you're locally subject to, and maths. Let's get the basics done at an early age, like languages. Yes, at an early age. We've still not learned that in Britain, but there you go. The older you get, actually, class sizes don't matter quite as much. And a quotation here from the piece I read was, it doesn't matter if there's 5 or 10 people in the class. Where do they get that one from? I wish we could have that in the United Kingdom. As low as that. But the main reason for keeping class sizes down in the secondary tier of education is behaviour.
Yeah.
Now that says it all again, doesn't it? Where we are.
Well, it does. I mean, I would say, I'm trying to think, I think when I was teaching, there were 30 in a class. But I was looking at on the news the other night of children underground in Ukraine have got building up these schools, and they've got something like 1,800 children underground now in schools, in bunkers and things like that are operating. But, you know, discipline and behavior is paramount to any good education being received. I think 25 is good for a secondary school. I think that's a good number. But also, as you go up through the year groups, there is an awful lot of discussion and debate around subjects that, and the smaller classes, you can't have that, what's supposed to be a vibrant discussion about, like if you're studying politics, you're going to have debates, if you're doing politics A level, about politics of today. You're going to have a constructive debate. And if you have less people in it, I don't think that works so well. But I do think the behaviour, you could have 40 kids in the class if the behaviour was all right.
Do you find on your travels that the state education is as good as the private?
No. I think the education is a bad thing, is the behaviour. I don't think there's a problem with the I really don't think there's a problem with the curriculum or the amazing IT stuff that they've got and technology and the choice of subjects. And, you know, I don't think that's the problem. The problem is the behavior, and the behavior in the class, the lack of respect for the education you are having, where other countries around the world don't have it. The lack of respect for the fact that this is going to be for your future, not your teachers, for your future. But, you know, there just is a terrible, terrible lack of respect and lack of regard and shouting out in class. But that goes down to the teacher, you know, commanding the fact that you listen and make your lesson interesting, and not having paper darts thrown at you or pencil case and, like, you know, missiles coming across the classroom. It's the lack of discipline.
I'm going to say something horrible now. Get ready for this one. Co-education. Has it done us a favour or not? Should we still have boys' schools
Well,
or girls' schools? Oh,
well,
probably now we'd have not decided what I am schools.
well, my grandson has just been accepted into a single set school from September, which he wanted. So he's got 2 sisters, and he wanted to go to an all boys school, and he's got in, and he did extremely well, much to the chagrin of my son, who doesn't like single sex education. I don't like single sex education either, personally. We don't live in a single sex world. We have to get on. I don't think it matters probably so much if you have a mixed family, you have brothers and sisters, but I think there's no bad saying it's a part of education. If you've only got girls or you've only got boys, you need to understand that we are different, they are different, and you need to rub along. And because the moment you leave school and go to university, you don't have single sex universities.
Well, I know, but I mean, the younger ages, these women lead us astray. You know, we're easily led as males, of course,
That's
but
your
we.
problem.
Well, yeah, well, it is. I mean, there's more discipline. It has been argued in single-sex education. We're not distracted by the lovely females.
Well, yeah, that is true. That is true. But sooner or later, you're going to be, aren't you? So you're not living in a single-sex world. And I do think there is a better understanding of the various, of the genders. I think you can very often tell when a grown man has gone to an all-boys school.
Can you?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I
Right.
think so. There's less understanding about women. They're more puerile with their humor and little boys behind the bike shed type humor. I don't know. There's something. I just think there's a
Oh, I,
box.
I remember the bike shed.
I
Well,
don't. I think there's a box not ticked when you go to a single sex school. Personally, I don't like. I don't like them. I think it. My granddaughters in Bermuda go to single sex, and they're doing extremely well, extremely well. But they also do an awful lot of stuff as well that is mixed. There's an awful lot of stuff they do, running, loads of sports where there's boys as well. So they got friends with sons and all of that. But girls can be. I mean, I went to a girls' school. I hated it. Girls can be horrendously bitchy. You think boys can bully, girls do it better. They're vile. I absolutely hated school. Loads. I couldn't wait to leave. The girls were horrible. That was then.
oh,
I do not like it. I don't, and you just don't, we don't live in a single sex world. So, I mean, my son is really, my grandson really pushed to go to this boys' school, and it's very elite. It was a grammar school, and they still like to think they are. But, he was, oh, I really don't want to go there. He was adamant he wanted to go there. And I said, well, you chose your school. Your father wanted you to go to this one. You could have got a scholarship to go to this one and that. He was adamant. He wanted to go to the worst school actually in the town, and he comes away with a first-class maths degree, and he's a high-earning actuary now. So, at the end of the day, it's how you knuckle down and do your studies. If the kids aren't happy at school, they're not going to learn. So, that's what I said to him. If your son wants to go to that particular school, he will work hard. If you force him to go somewhere else he doesn't want to go, it will come back and bite you. But I don't like single sex schools. I'm not a fan of it at all.
okay. Well, we're both fans of discipline. And I was thinking about what you said before. How many did you used to teach? 30 odd in a class?
30.
Well, I know I'm completely Asian, but it was 48 when I was teaching.
Well, yeah, but we were
And there was
disciplined
no
then.
problem. No problem.
Not a problem. If you're disciplined, if you haven't got discipline, you're not going to cope with 18 in a class.
No, I mean the gaffer tape proved very helpful, of course, over the mouth.
There's the lack of discipline. That's the trouble. And the lack of authority. You don't even need to be bullish in school. There is, I used to say when we had students coming into school, you walk into the class with an air about you. It's like coming on stage. You have to have a performance, not slopping around in your old flip-flops, putting your books down, morning class. You have to come in, open it, and look like business is going to be done. And you have to have a strength in your voice and strong eye contact. And it is a performance every class that you go into. And I don't think these teachers are trained at college or whatever they do about body language, your body language when you walk into a classroom. And, all right, I'm tall, and, you can sort of like command authority sort of thing. But I mean, I was a music teacher. I was head of music. I would have 300 kids, 400 kids in an assembly. And I walked in. I just looked at them, didn't even, and I would fold my arms.
Yeah, well, why doesn't that surprise me? I wonder. Listen, you'll be getting a fanfare next time. Your teacher this morning will be Marilyn Hawes. It'll be like a WWF thing.
But I used to just I just used to like look at certain pockets that were doing the talking, and I'd just stare at them, and I'd just go, I'm waiting.
Mm.
And I would just stare at them. And I can reduce somebody to tears by just staring at them. I have done that before. Because
Oh, it was me. I shall hold my hand up. No,
yeah, but
we're gonna
it's the lack of discipline and the lack of respect, and I would not have that when I was teaching.
no,
And you don't need to be. I don't like shouty school. You don't need to shout. You don't need
no.
to raise your voice. I can't stand shouty schools, and you've lost the plot. You've lost your stripes as soon as you start to raise your voice.
Mm, true. Right, we're going to move on to vaping.
Yeah.
There's been a new study about vaping, and it's fascinating. And it's come out with the following facts: 75% of kids that are vaping are affected medically. What? Yeah, well, loss of sleep,
Yeah.
attention, anxiety was the chief one to come out of this. My goodness me, what are they putting in these vapes? So you've got to ask yourself, is it better to say stick with cigarettes?
Well, I've sort of come to that conclusion in a way because you've got all the little tiny metal particles that are in these vapes that are causing what is the nickname popcorn lung, which is cocathalil or something. It's the little tiny particles like literally pop the lung and make an impression on the lung, and that stuff sits in the lung.
Oh.
You can, and it's causing bronchial problems, it's causing cancers. And then you've got the other vapes that are being sold on Snapchat, where the dealers are filling it up with Class A drugs and all sorts of psychedelic type drugs. Children are vomiting, passing out. They're disgusting. I agree with you. I honestly agree with you. I think you're neither are good, are they? But I honestly think you're probably healthier smoking the odd cigarette because there's nicotine in these anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, people are actually choosing vaping that have never smoked.
I know. That's what I don't understand, because it's a fad, isn't it? It's you know, you've got to join peer pressure and all of that. Absolutely right. I mean, was it 80% or 85% of 4,000 teachers asked said that vaping was a problem in their school?
Yeah,
What
yeah,
are they doing with vapes in school? Why are they allowed them?
yeah.
You wouldn't be getting out a pack of cigarettes.
No, the other fascinating stat is that for whatever reason, you drink twice as much alcohol if you're on vapes.
Really?
Now, there
Goodness.
must be some reason for that, but it's not good news story, is it?
That's interesting, isn't it?
Let's move on
Yes.
to a good news story. Let's mention Tony Hudgel. Now,
Oh,
little boy, bless him, he was abused terribly by his parents and had to have both legs removed. Horrible. And he found the right home, of course, and decided to march up and down in favour of not only one ward in the NHS, but the NHS for children's hospitals. And he set out to get about 500 and odd pounds. He finished up with 1.8 million.
he is amazing, that lad. I read the article, and I mean, as you say, his what would you call adopted mother, I suppose, Paula. What an inspiration that they are to him. He is an extraordinary little boy. And by golly, if anyone needs to have a knighthood, it's him. He hasn't once felt sorry for himself. He's had the most hideous background. And there he is. I just saw that article in the paper and I put it out on X as well. What an inspiration he should be an inspiration to every child in this country that sits there going, I've got mental health issues. You know, he hasn't got any legs. You know, what is he, 10 years old? And he's got this attitude of giving something back when everything he had was taken from him by his brutal parents. He is an extraordinary young man. And as I say, he should be used as an icon for some of these whinging, out of control kids.
Indeed. We better go back to the Cousins man, and of course Sarah Everard. because this is typical. Okay, it was an isolated, horrible incident, but it's highlighted so much that's going wrong in the police force. I mean, this guy was allowed to stay in a police force after exposing himself 8 times that the police knew about.
Yes,
And
and it is
they
a continuum. If you expose yourself, the continuum from exposing goes to rape.
Yeah.
It's a continuum of bizarre sexual gratification, and it goes forward to rape. He should never have been recruited. Now, this morning, I mean, I'll tell you about that in a minute, but when it said Sadiq Khan, who I don't really like, but he did say it's going to take years for the Met Police to be trusted. I don't think it will ever come back, because, and I don't think the police per se will ever get that trust back again. I really don't. I've had 3 calls this morning. So we started this call at 10 o'clock. I had 3 calls between 9 and 10 from various victims of crimes. One was rape, one was stalking, one was an ex-partner who's got guns and is threatening her with guns. All 3 have gone to the police. All 3 have been washed away and, oh yes, we'll deal with it, and nothing has happened. And one of those is in Wales, your neck of the woods. One was in the northeast, and one was in around the Nottingham area. Yeah, Nottingham area. So, and these are really, really bad cases of victims being abused, and the police have done nothing. Where do you go if the police are inept, don't understand, can't be bothered, complacent, not got the right training, shouldn't have been recruited in the first place? Where do you go if the police aren't going to respond? Who is the overarching body? You see?
Well, it's a cover-up, as it usually
Of course
is.
it is.
And we've mentioned this on many occasions. The officers that knew what he was up to didn't say. So they're as culpable in one sense
Of course they are.
as he is. The other thing is the police forces have been invited under the Freedom of Information Act to delve into this. And of the 48 forces of various types in the United Kingdom, only 19 have responded to give figures. Now, they've got out of it, Marilyn, because under the Act of Parliament, it states that you really shouldn't be spending a lot of time, they should, on this sort of thing. So you've got a time limit when to get the information ready. So that's a recipe for kicking everything into the long grass, if anything is. 19 out of 48 have given some indication. They don't care. Who are they recruiting? What's going on in the colleges when they're training these policemen?
This is it. And again, the colleges of policing are such a closed enclave. You can't get in. They should be having people with lived experience of crimes and where they've had that lived experience of not being listened to by the police. You've got 33% of domestic abuse created by police officers never gets put through the system. They protect their own. I feel desperately sorry for the very good police officers. I feel desperately sorry because there's some very, very good ones, but of course they're swiped aside for the very, very bad ones. It's like teaching. Whenever you find a paedophile in a classroom, it brings down the reputation of the education system. But the police, if you've got complacent, sloppy police officers that have got the number of criminal records some of them have, they should be inside, not policing us. I just, something terribly wrong is happening with the recruitment. Without a doubt, something very bad is going on. And it's not going to do well for them, because I do think respect is going to take years, if ever, to get that respect back.
Yeah, and it's not just the Met either. It's
no, because this morning's proved my point. Northeast, Wales, and Nottingham proved my point. And how many times do you see every single day there's somebody else that's like, oh, police officer, inappropriate behavior, whatever, whatever. But these cases today that I had, our police are just not listening, can't be bothered, just say, oh, no, well, yeah, we'll deal with it, and nothing happens.
There's the uniform effect, don't forget, Marilyn.
Oh, yeah. Uniform attracts control freaks. And, you know, like the military, isn't it? I can march around with my uniform on and I automatically demand respect.
Yes, or
And
the
it
most.
doesn't work like that. And I think they've got to go some to get any respect back. Really have.
The most dangerous thing you can buy, traffic warden, is a high-vis jacket and a whistle. Do they buy them whistles? Well, they buy them guns here, of course. In Spain, they're not really traffic wardens. They're posh traffic wardens. They do local policing, but they have low-velocity guns.
Ooh.
Now, they can still kill you with one of these, but it takes longer, so you're in pain before you die. No, I jest. So I suppose it helps if they want to shoot somebody in the leg. But it's been well thought through. It seems to function. We have adequate police in Spain. Can we say that we need it? Because there are certain nations that are not as I don't know, perhaps we changed in Britain now because of various things, but we've always been led to respect our police, even to fear our police. Here, sometimes it's a national hobby to be a bit naughty, and there are more pickpockets to the square meter and that type of crime here.
Yes.
Maybe they do need 6 police forces, which is what we've got in Spain. Listen,
Portugal have 3, don't they? They have the ones that, and they are quite fearsome.
It's very much more ordered society,
yes,
I can tell you, in Portugal than Spain.
Yeah.
But that's it. Listen, we've got to go, but we're going to end on some good news, and it's to do with potatoes.
Oh, yum, yum.
Well, the potato is not had its accolades. Oh, you can't eat potatoes. Rice is better. Pasta is better. Really? No, the spuds are. Now, we've got a problem with the belladonna family because the spud is. So are tomatoes. So if you're in any way allergic to that, then you should be careful how much you eat. Tomatoes can cause arthritis, as an example.
Yes.
Too many tomatoes, but they're very, very good. They're a very good anti-cancer remedy, inverted commas, that remedy. But you've got to know the secrets of boiling your spuds. I shall dissertate and tell you how to boil your spuds. Forgive me, ladies. But there's some things coming out now after evidence about the dear old spud. And, you throw them in a pan to boil. But you've got to maintain what's in the spud, the vitamins, the minerals, etc. Because long-term boiling really gets rid of a lot of the stuff. And there's a number of tips that we will give to the viewer today. Less boiling is better. That's the first tip. So if you can keep your eye on that and don't let them go soggy, try and boil them a bit less. You need the right type of potato. So if you want to make chips, the Maris Piper and others are very, very good. Or if you want jacket potatoes, there are 2 or 3 of those that just keep crisp on the outside and go mushy in the middle, which is what you want with the jacket potato. Well, not too mushy. But if you want a tip around that very tip, don't get advice from your supermarket because A, they're not interested, B, they know nothing. Go to a local grocery shop and say, which are the best potatoes for what I want to do? And he will tell you, and what's in season. The other thing we've got to do, which is very simple, if you want to cook your potatoes, cut them smaller rather than larger. That'll cut down, obviously, on the cooking time. So that's a simple tip. A lot of people don't think, but there you go.
A jacket potatoes are extremely healthy. And there was
Yes.
a dietitian on the radio the other day that said, have a jacket potato every day. You've got all the nutrients in it. It's really, really healthy.
Depends what you put in them that makes
Oh,
it
of
horrible.
course, yeah.
So the other thing, and this is, jacket potato territory, as we know, leave the skin on, even in
Oh,
your boiled
always, I
potatoes.
do. Yeah.
Actually, in boiling, it's not so much that there are goodies in the skin. There are goodies in the skin, but the main thing is it stops the goodies escaping.
Yes.
So if you leave the skin on, you're going to get more goodies left.
Yeah.
Goodies like, vitamin B you've got to protect in a potato that doesn't do well long-term boiling. Vitamin C is the biggest one that is denuded in your potato. And there are various minerals that you've got to look after, potassium, magnesium, but they're not as susceptible to long-term boiling as vitamin C and B. Anyway, the other thing that you've got to do, I say got to, would be a good idea. Don't throw all the vitamins and minerals away with your water. Make gravy out of it or use it for something else, and it tastes nicer and it's going to do you good. So don't throw that away. Steaming is better than boiling, apparently, because the temperatures are not as high and you can do it quicker. So whether it's in a cooker, steam cooker, pressure cooker, it is better than boiling. And one simple thing, which I bet most people don't do, don't put your spuds in cold water. Let it boil before you put potatoes in. That cuts down denuding the minerals, vitamins,
makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And finally, depends whether you want a mushy mash, because you can leave them in a bit longer if you want a mushy mash for obvious reasons. But if you want a salad potato, then really do it to the point.
Yes,
don't overcook them. So there you go, girls and fellas.
My favourite food. I would rather not have bread than never have potatoes. I love any which way you can cook them. I love them.
There you go. Especially chips, which will do you bad.
Oh God, don't get me going.
No, chips twice a week at least. There's no harm in it.
Lovely. Yum, yum.
Go to your local chippy. Support your local chippy. Right, we're going.
Bye-bye. Have a good week.